the Nike Alphafly Next Percent 3. This is one of Nike's headliner race day shoes in the year of 2024. I have 100 plus miles on it. I want to tell you my thoughts about this shoe at this time. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed, watching the content. Thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs of the shoe, somewhere up here. And we'll just kick it off right away into what the outsoles of this shoe look like. And as we're doing a brief analysis of that, I'll also tell you guys that in the 100 plus miles, we'll break down what percentage of it was for a training run, what percentage of it was for racing actually, and yeah, we'll just kind of get into that stuff as well. So yeah, I guess we'll start off first with what's going on the outsole at this time. You can already see, for me, again, I have very specific points of the shoe that I'm paying attention to, in addition to symmetry between both shoes, because without that symmetry, there might be some sort of stride problem I have to address. In the left foot, I like to see most of my striking in the center, if possible. Due to the 8mm offset, we do have that slight, anterior focus in the shoe, because the shoe sort of wants to increase the foot to go on the outside to combat any sort of overpronation that may occur. In my case, I have sort of a neutral foot, so this does naturally have me going on the outside of this race day shoe, and I think the wear would sort of complement that assessment. As you can see, the outer anterior pod has a bit of grazing in this pattern that looks like the basketball underneath the Air Zoom pocket or pod, and then we have some of that wear on the outside of the shoe right there, but nothing too crazy in the central area of the shoe as of right now. We do have a little bit, again, of that midfoot wear and sort of wrinkling of the foam on the area that's not reinforced by any sort of rubber. And in terms of wrinkling across the ZoomX foam stack, we do have it in its usual spots here and here on the inside of the shoe, but again, nothing that's significant that's sort of wearing out the shoe from what I'm seeing right now. And yeah, we do have that normally expected wear here in the forefoot areas of the shoe, as I am more of that midfoot to forefoot striker in this type of shoe. Now, the symmetry does sort of add up when it comes to the right foot, which I know has more of that anterior push from my biomechanics and my turnover. We do have that wear on this pod, and we have a lot more wear on the outside of this shoe than otherwise on the left foot. So what does that tell us is that the left foot is still kind of having more of that central foot strike, and then the right foot has more of that anterior strike and is kind of landing sort of that way, and it's sort of evident based on the overall wear between the two of them. Okay, cool. So that's the wear. That's just what's important for me, maybe for you guys as well if you guys are into that kind of stuff. Let's get into 100 plus miles, what I think about this shoe. I'll say this much right off the rip. I did take this shoe on at least 70% training runs, 30% racing, okay? So that's where we get to at 100 plus miles. And it might be actually more 60-40 now that I'm thinking about it, simply because the races that I've used this for include the Chicago Marathon, the North Shore 10K Turkey Trot, and the Santa Run 5K. So if we do the math on those distances, that puts us at about 36 miles, I think, because that's 26 plus another 6, that's 32 4 at that point, and then 37 point something else here with the Santa Run. My brain is just kind of fried right now, but it is about closer to 60-40. All things considered, we include warm-ups and cool downs involved with the races and stuff like that. The shoe is kind of part of all of that training portion of the race day, right? And that being said, what are some of the overall thoughts? Well, I think at this point a lot of people agree that the shoe has no shortage of praise as being like the 2024 race day choice from the Nike brand. I think a lot of people understand that the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 is just kind of not all that. It's just taking the bad pieces of the Vaporfly Next Percent 1 and 2 and just I guess amplifying them, and it's just not the world's most fun ride. Like, it'll get the job done, but it still sucks. Like, the two predecessors of the 1 and the 2 are just simply better race day Vaporflies. But now when we come to the Alphafly, we do have, in my opinion, a skew of opinions and performance things to consider. Again, we've lived in the era where 2021, 2022, we had shoes that just absolutely wowed us to oblivion, right? I'm talking about the Alphafly 1, which was one of the craziest race day shoes I've ever had. Personally, I won 2 races in the Alphafly 1. The Alphafly 2, I can only do like 2 runs in it before decals on the shoes, exterior, started rubbing in a way where I said, screw it, I can't run this thing, too many blisters. We get to this shoe, and it takes the issues from the Vaporfly 1 and 2 and sort of amends on them, but also changes sort of the general specs of the shoe to fit a better, I guess, principle with the daily trainers that are involved with Nike, right? So what I mean by that is, well, with the Vaporfly Next Percent, not the Vaporfly, the Alphafly ones, they were like 35 in the forefoot, 39 in the heel, and it was like a 5mm offset. So it was a lot more neutral than this shoe with the 8mm offset, which resembles more of the Vaporfly, I guess, offset and stack heights, which were closer to like 32 and 40 in the Vaporfly and is also in this Alphafly, right? So you see where I'm going with this, is that they tried to take the good things of the Alphafly and swing it over to the Alphafly, and in this case, the specs and the overall human, I guess, man, I'm going to hate my word choices for this, the human biology that uses Nike predominantly and likes their 8mm stack product sort of made the message loud and clear to Nike that, hey, we should take our other race day shoe and sort of give it the same specs so the customer likes those specs as well, as an experiment, I guess. Again, this is all just speculation. I'm not like somebody who's got an insider on Nike and said, hey, they left the 5mm offset because people just don't have strong feet or something. I don't know. I really don't know. But again, it is strange that it went to Vaporfly specs in an Alphafly shoe. Okay, fine. That's enough of that rant. Other things to talk about here, again, like I mentioned earlier, the shoe has no shortage of praise. It's the hot piece in 2024 in the Nike world, understandably so. So it's, you either buy this shoe and you learn to like it or love it, or you buy an older shoe, a different company's shoe, and expect that to be kind of the product you race with. So that could be the Metaspeed Sky Paris, for example, which is a strong competitor to this shoe, right? This could be the Saucony Endorphins. This could be the Metaspeed Sky Plus from ASICS. This could be the Adidas Prime X, one of the other ones there with the double carbon plate stack. Not getting into there. So, with that being said, again, I want to talk about maybe one of the major cons with the shoe that, again, was prevalent in the not the Vaporfly. I'm confusing the two. It's the Alphafly 2, which in this case I had some rubbing in a decal on my pinky toe, which would develop blisters on both of my feet. This does not exist in the upper of the shoe. However, there is a strange occurrence that could be a result of my issue, but it's worth addressing here, is that I'm having in my left foot, my big toe is slamming the toe box of this shoe rather frequently, more than I would like to admit. But now it's at the point where I've done 3 different distances of race. I did the marathon in this shoe, which I really enjoyed. Granted, I wasn't in the best condition for it. I did a 10K in this shoe where this issue started kind of popping up a little bit more. And then I did a 5K in this shoe, which the issue was so bad that I could barely walk after the race. This toe box slamming, and you guys can sound off in the comments below if you've experienced something like this in an Alphafly or a different shoe, some of your remedies or thoughts with it, and I'll give you my thoughts later too, but this slamming is sort of an issue, and it's only happening in one foot, which could be either biomechanically, maybe my left foot is built differently than my right. It's possible. The way I strike the ground could be a big factor in this. The way I tie the shoe is sort of where my brain is going, that maybe I'm not locking this down properly, and as a result, I'm having too much foot movement, and I'm slamming the toe box in here. And all in all, it's kind of causing some issues. It's obviously, as I mentioned in my Nova Blast 4 review, like I can run into Nova Blast 4 because the toe box is a little bit wider, and as a result, it's not hitting the toe box or slamming on the top of the shoe. So the toe has some breathing room. It's kind of dull, it's kind of stiff, it's kind of swollen. It's not really feeling any major discomfort in something like that shoe, but in this particular shoe, it's sort of a problem. So with that being said, again, you guys sound off and tell me if you had a similar experience or this is something exclusive to me, and as a result, maybe this is something I need to play around with, the way I lock this shoe down, the way I tie it down. Maybe I have to play around with different socks. I don't know. It's just something to, again, pay attention to. But in all the distances, like whatever you want the shoe to do, it's there with you. And that's obviously a pro that I guess you guys probably already assumed, is that the shoe will be consistent. If you're consistent, it won't feel like you're dropping off when you're feeling like you're going easy. The shoe is like going to carry you as long as you're being consistent with it. It's not going to feel too heavy. It's not going to feel super light or anything that's kind of invisible and like out of your control. The shoe is controlled, stable, and fast. We already know this, but it's just something to give an extra emphasis when you're deciding, hey, should I buy this for a 5K or a 10K race? I say, yeah, go for it. You never know if you're going to need it for something longer, like a half marathon or a marathon at that point. But this shoe is like definitely built for those distances. But in the 5 and 10K, it performed just as fine, and I was just as confident in this shoe and fast. And there was no issues from this past weekend other than this toe box slamming, which I'm looking at it now. You can kind of see like the imprint of my big toe just basically there after just slamming it a couple of dozen times. I wonder if we can like angle it properly. It's like I kind of like crushed it in now, but yeah, you can see sort of where that impact zone is, and it's not prevalent in my right foot, mostly because it's not slamming, or it's just secured nicely and it's not really causing any sort of issues. So the right foot is good. Other than we talked about this, I think in the 50 plus mile review or my marathon review of it. I did end up ripping the back of this shoe, and I did end up Gorilla Gluing it, and I kind of decided to come back and touch base with it right now. Unless you look for this, I don't think you'll ever notice that I actually ripped it and glued it back together. You can see the crack in the foam right there, I guess. But, like, again, the glue's holding it in good shape. It is a little bit stiffer than the rest of the foam, as expected. And, yeah, the glue is doing its job. I didn't need to return this shoe or anything of that sort to resolve this issue. I just had a self-repair moment on it, and it's in good shape. This is the foot that didn't create any toe blisters, so this isn't creating some after side effects that are affecting the lockdown of the shoe in any sort of way or the performance. It's just it is what it is, right? So all in all, 100 miles. The wear of the shoe is not bad. It's lasting longer than the Tempo Next Percent. That's a huge plus in my opinion. And, yeah, we haven't popped the pods. The shoe is performing overall pretty well. It's not the best race day shoe I ever got from Nike. It's pretty good, maybe pretty damn good, but it's not like the best shoe, granted. So that's just, again, something to think about, that with manufacturing changes and design changes, like it's going to be very difficult to replicate like the Vaporfly and the Alphafly 1s respectively. But that's just life. The shoe is just going to constantly evolve. Maybe at some point they'll bring back the Vaporfly 1s or the Alphafly 1s for a limited time with no strings attached, no changes, just like the same old builds, and they'll just release them out to the public. But until then, we have this, and this is way better than the Vaporfly Next Percent 3, the Alphafly 2. And I expect this shoe to kind of be in the rotation for a little while because it is really damn good. It's just not the best thing that we've ever had. And then again, with the Toebox issue, I'll find a way to resolve this the next time I start running in this thing again. For now, I think my race season is over until we begin again in January, February. So December is kind of going to be training, rebuild volume, rebuild speed, and then get into 2025 swinging kind of a deal. So I think we'll leave it at that. So if you have any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns with the shoes, let me know in the comments below. But other than that, I think we'll leave it at this. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.